What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Also known as I still have an earache.
This marks our first episode back for the new year,
Mm-hmm.
episode 76. And yeah, we actually skipped last week. Just took a little break, a little extra break after the holiday break. And, kind of got,
What? Because I thought I had COVID.
well, that you and apparently everyone else around the country, because COVID is spreading like crazy, and it was already a thing, right? But like,
Yeah.
Omicron is like the new Decepticon, just you know,
Oh,
ex-
totally.
destroying everybody left and right.
It's like,
Because
did
it's
you go
it's
grocery shopping? You have COVID. Did you breathe
potentially
air in your hallway? You have COVID.
it's spreading so fast that I was like, you know what? Because for instance, my this is my birthday month,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm going to see Scream. I'm going to the movie. I'm doing all the stuff that I want to do
Wait,
because
Scream?
things were looking up. I like Scream. I'm a
Wait,
Scream
there's a
fan.
new Scream?
Yep, Scream 5. There's a new one, and it's getting good reviews too. Um,
I've missed out on the last 8 months of my life. I know nothing.
it's cool. Once everything is everything, I have all four Screams, and I'm probably gonna get this one if it's good. So we could definitely have a shared marathon, if you will. But yeah, like I wanted to go see it. I wanted to celebrate, and I was like, I did just announce like Spider-Man was gonna be my last film in theaters, just
You
because
did.
people were rude, or just they don't know how to. Some people just don't care. Like some people don't mask. They're not worried about getting vaccinated and all the other stuff. And which do your thing, but stay away from me.
Mm.
And with recent scare, my son was had a fever
Mm-hmm.
for, I want to say that Friday and Saturday the past week, and he had gotten a flu shot, his second flu shot, because you have to get two, and we thought potentially it's that, but if it was COVID, we didn't want to go anywhere. Like I had a doctor's appointment and my wife had an appointment here or there. And so we kind of like stayed in and we took him to the pediatrician
Mm-hmm.
and to get the, COVID test. Thankfully they didn't have to go like, you know, go all the way through his brain cavity and whatnot to get to do the test. That's what I was worried about because I heard about early tests and how difficult they are to sit through. But he didn't have to do all that. And we got the test back yesterday, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, and it came back negative. So awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
great.
so we're with that making new appointments and all that good stuff to kind of get back on track. But yeah, it was just like we more and more people that we knew were getting COVID, and it was getting
Yeah.
closer and closer to home.
Yeah, like half
Excuse
my
me.
family has COVID, so.
Right, and it was like because I had some family members that got COVID before, but it's not to this extent. Like someone would get COVID and it's like okay, like one of my uncles had was going through physical therapy, and
Mhm,
one of the nurses had gotten COVID from someone that they were treating, and so that's how he
mhm,
got COVID. But they kind of made sure to rally around him and protect him as well as themselves, so no one else in
mhm,
the room got it, right? But now it's like people just didn't even know, like because people were asymptomatic or whatever, had gotten
mhm,
vaccinated but still had gotten COVID from maybe over the holiday weekend getting
mhm.
together, even taking precautions, and still got COVID. And it was like, fam, like this is like you got COVID too, like good grief, like
Yo, I'm still trying to find out who the Ebola monkey was because I'm sitting here like, "Wait, you got COVID? You got COVID? Hey, how did this happen?" So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's this banana. So I made that excuse me, my time. I used my time to like we typically do, catch up on different shows and whatnot. And one of them, film actually, Don't Look Up, which we're going to talk about later. I actually saw over the weekend, and yeah, it was nice not to have to go places, not have to think about going to places. I know COVID has made it difficult. Like people want to get out,
Mhm,
but the fact that I don't want to be around people right now, the
mhm,
having the option to be like, you know what, I might have something, so I'm just gonna stay home. It sounds bad, but like I really didn't want to go to my nutritionist, and I didn't want to go. There's certain anxieties I have to deal with
mhm.
seeing them anyways, and so being able to stay home and kind of not do certain things was like, as opposed to going out in the midst of COVID, it was like, you know what,
Mhm.
this is kind of cool. So with that, I, continue to, play video games and catch up on stuff. I'm rewatching the Venture Brothers, and still awesome.
Venture
Still
brother.
awesome. I'm watching. The writing is just so good. There's some things that I think younger me might have liked more so than the older me. Certain things aren't
Mhm.
as funny
Yeah.
anymore. But in terms of the writing, it's genius. Like just genius level. I hope they get the green light to do the.
Do
They're
it
supposed to be
again.
adventures. Well, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna get a new season, but I think they're gonna do potentially do a movie to kind of
Oh, that'll be
finish.
fun.
Yeah, finish it. Speaking of movies, Bob's Burgers. I saw the trailer for that for the movie. It's going to theater, which I think is a mistake, but beyond that, it looks like a ton of fun, and I can't wait to see it via digital. You
Yeah.
know, but I think that's cool. And I also read that the Pixar film Red is going to directly to Disney Plus, which for me is a plus. But apparently Pixar wasn't too happy about that because this
Mm,
was supposed to be their first film back in theaters since Onward.
mhm,
Unfortunately, Onward didn't do too well in the theater. This was the first Pixar film that didn't do gangbusters like right out the bat, and it was
mhm.
because of COVID. So I can
Yeah,
kind of understand Disney's take on like, hey, but at the same time, if you're promised something, you kind of want to, I don't know what the cost is to get these films out to theater. I would just think like, hey, release it in theater. If it doesn't do well, just put it on Disney Plus sooner. But
yeah.
I think Disney's might. I don't know. So I don't know if there's a cost associated with that to where
There
Disney's
is.
like, you know what, let's just let's cut our losses and just because it's not Spider Man. Let's be honest. Pixar is Pixar, and I
Yeah.
dig Pixar, but they're not pulling Spider Man numbers. People were willing to face COVID to go see Spider Man. I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to do that to see Red. And
There's
so if
certain
they're
movies you have to see in the theater.
right, and so like I don't think that that's going to be a big of a buzz to where people would go.
Mhm,
And if there is a cost, like you're saying, then that means Disney's going to try to save money, and it's going to be a boost to their streaming platform because you have a movie that's only on there that you don't
mhm.
have to pay an extra $40 for, like some of the other films they did. So I kind of get it. It's just my only
Mulan.
beef is you're right. My only beef is that you kind of have to make it good for the people that work for you. We remember the whole thing with Black Widow and Scarlet, where she sued Disney. Is not so much because she didn't understand that COVID is a thing. It's the fact that certain bonuses and whatnot are tied to the film doing well, and if you don't give them an opportunity, i.e., releasing it on the app and whatnot, then you cut them out of that money. And for Disney, it's like, hey, it doesn't really matter for them. They don't have to pay that money, and
Mhm,
they have everybody subscribing to the app. You have to make it right. So at the very least, be like, you know what, if I don't know how they would do the metrics on that, but be like, there's still a way for you to get these bonuses, and that way we can still have a working relationship. I don't think you have to screw people over if you
mhm,
have to pivot. Just you know make things right is what I'm saying. So that
mhm.
was an interesting bit of news this week. But aside from the COVID scare, how was your week?
Aside from the COVID scare. Yeah, I mean, man, COVID. I mean, I didn't feel well, so it made sense, and since everybody else has it, I'm like, but anyway, yeah, the week was decent. I did try to play some video games like you. Of course, play the one on my phone, which I know how to kind of navigate with, like, that doesn't exacerbate my headaches by, like, just making sure I'm not scrolling and I can turn my head away
Right.
from, since I have ADD anyway, like, I can just forget that I'm playing. Like, I'm just like, "Oh, I was doing that?" But, I did try to play, Assassin's Creed because I obviously so the last time I played, just, like, one level of, um, Warriors Orochi 3,
Right.
and, um, so it's funny, like, having a brain injury and then going back and, like, playing games that you used to play every day. I almost had no recollection of how to play. I didn't even know what the controller did on my Xbox. I was so confused. Like, I remember how to turn the Xbox on with the controller, could not remember where the power button was on the Xbox though. Like physically. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, we got some problems here. but that's his point. But I was able to play one of the levels in Warriors Rochi, like I said the last time, without really getting dizzy or anything, because you don't really have to mess with the camera when you're playing like the hack and slash games, I guess, maybe.
Right.
Like you kind of just go through it. But the thing is, I couldn't play the different styles. I only remembered how to play the main level, and I couldn't remember how to do certain things. Like I couldn't remember the power moves. I couldn't remember how to switch out the characters. Like none of it. The muscle memory wasn't even there. And
Right.
so I found that to be really interesting, because normally I just pick it back up. Like even playing old games, like I could, prior to my brain injury, I could plug in my PlayStation 2, which I never play, and put in Dynasty Warriors 5, and then know exactly what I was doing. But like going back and trying to play this, post brain injury, it was like I just couldn't remember anything. And so
Mm.
I still beat the level, but definitely didn't use any power moves. So that was fun. And then so I did Assassin's Creed this past week, and that's a big fail and a half. Mind you, I played, like I beat levels. I tried to I really could not really remember what the purpose of the game was. Apparently I was in the middle of like two murder mysteries, and I was like, how am I supposed to like figure this out?
See, that's rough for anyone. Like
For
coming
anyone.
back to a game like that's open world and you can go anywhere
Yeah.
you want. It's like,
Yeah.
what was I doing here? What is my motivation? I don't understand.
None. I was like, the only thing that I truly remember is that you can climb some buildings and dive off of them. And I didn't even
Right.
remember how to dive. I just remembered that at some point when you get up there, you can dive if there's a haystack.
Right.
But but I was like, how do I get up there again? And then because I couldn't remember again, I had to read, like I said the last time, I had to read like the control stuff. And then but I started getting nauseous pretty quickly, but I didn't attribute that to the game. I thought that I was having anxiety because I found out that half my family had COVID. And
Right. The
I was just
timing
like
is
really,
crazy.
yeah, I was really nervous. I was really stressed out, and I was trying to find ways to de-stress and distract myself. So I'm playing this, and then I start getting really nauseous, but again, I'm not able to correlate what's happening. And then I think I figured it out because I think I took some anti-nausea medicine or something, and then I like felt better. And then I did something else, and then I went back to playing, and then I got nauseous like within 2 minutes of playing. And I was like, oh snap, it's the game. So then I tried to figure
Yeah.
out what exactly it was, and then I realized the camera movements, because with Assassins, like every the you oh, brain. You operate the camera, with
Right.
the right joystick or whatever. And so the viewpoint moves so much, and it just completely mind boggles me. I'm like, okay, is the room moving? And then I also realized that I think my couch is too close to the TV, so I had to move it back 5 feet. And not at the same time. Like I was like, no, screw that. That's another day. But but I did realize that like I actually stood up and then backed into my bedroom. And I'm like, okay, now I'm 20 feet away from the TV. Is this better? Um, which it was, mind you. So, but the point is, it's really difficult to play that game because the camera keeps moving, and I'm healed enough that I no longer have to do physical therapy, but my brain is still discombobulated with the eyes.
It could
So,
take a while. I mean, even just, speaking of what you were saying though, like, and this is I haven't experienced the same things you experienced, but
mhm,
I did get a little nauseous. So for as an early birthday present, I
mhm.
got the Oculus Quest 2,
Oculus. Yeah.
right? And so I jumped in and I was playing Beat Saber, and it's great. First of all, none of y'all told me this was amazing. I'm fighting all of you. Square up. Tomorrow. Great game. I'm enjoying it. I'm not. The music isn't really as catchy as say like a Dance Dance or something like that,
Mhm.
but there are some tracks that are fire that I kept going back to. Good
Mhm.
game, solid investment. And I bought another game. It's a battle royal game. Uh, in the sense of if you are have played battle royal before, like Fortnite or something like that, where it's
Mhm.
basically everybody against each other. You jump into
Mhm.
an island of sorts and then find weapons. Everything is random.
Mhm.
Um, and I was playing this game. It's called Population One, and I hadn't gotten my like virtual reality legs yet, apparently,
Mhm.
and because the with the games that I have played, it's mostly the way they handle movement is kind of like a teleportation. Like they'll
Mhm.
teleport you somewhere, and then you're kind of just in this space, and it works. But this one is full movement. Like you move yourself with the analog stick, and
Okay.
the thing is, your brain it has a hard time sometimes when you see yourself moving in this space, but you're actually
Mhm.
not. Like your feet are planted, and
Yeah, yeah.
so it kind of it throws you off, and you can get
Mhm.
real nauseous and yeah, it's bad. But I was playing it, and what it does, the game helps you by creating like a tunnel, almost like tunnel vision. It blacks out everything except for a small portion of whatever you're looking at, so you can
Mhm.
focus on that as you move. When I first
Cool.
started playing, I've gotten good now, so I can play it for a little while without having to like remove my headset or whatever. But the first time I played, oh my, the training level alone or the tutorial area
Mhm.
messed me up. I had to stop. I had to close my eyes and then just
Mhm.
take several deep breaths and
Yeah.
just kind of like, orient myself within the room so I didn't like keel over because it was a shock to the system. I felt like I was, like on a boat or something, uh, rocking back and forth. But it was honestly only when I was moving. I could pick up things in space and all this other stuff. But trying to walk and climb a wall and everything, all in virtual reality, just threw me for a loop. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Thankfully, after a while, I kind of got more acclimated to how it works. And I knew how to kind of like focus and defocus a little bit on what I was, looking at. And then it got to a point where I could move and look all around at the same time, so it wasn't as bad. And I was like, "All right, cool. I'm good now. I'm good." But that first day, oh
Yeah.
goodness, it
Doozy.
was. I was like, "Ah, I'm gonna have to refund this,
No,
this
no. I
game."
read about that though. Like, there it's not a disorder, but video games are known to cause nausea, like video games that move. Like, and so the same situation that you're in, like I know people have reported feeling that way with Grand Theft. Like that used to happen to me when I'm playing Grand Theft. I had a 2 hour limit. But I read about this a long time ago, and it's the same for people who get motion sickness in
Yeah,
cars. People who are prone to motion sickness in cars typically are the ones who are affected. It's just that your brain typically registers like when your body is moving. Obviously, your brain is registering that, so everything makes sense. But when you're staring at something that's constantly moving, and you're not moving, your brain starts to get tired after a while and it can't keep up. And then it starts sending the wrong signals. And that's typically when you end up getting nauseous. And so, in a virtual reality type situation where you are like, that's that intense, it just happens so much faster. And that's normal. That's for people who are healthy, you
right,
know? People
exactly.
who don't have brain injuries, people who do have brain injuries, they're gonna get nauseous before they even put on the VR set.
Yeah, it is because because at least for the Quest, the store, they'll tell
Mm,
you like, this game is I don't know what the baseline is, but it's like moderate was the population one game, and then there's intense. I don't even want to see intense right now.
no,
Uh,
no.
I need to practice and get better at it, or either have one of those they have like bands you can put on and
Mm,
medication you can take. But as even as that, I can't wear it, but for so long before I have to take it off.
no.
It's something that you do sparingly.
Mhm.
However, I am enjoying it. It's a solid birthday gift. I had wanted one for a while,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not?
Well, good
So
job.
that has been our week. So today we're going to be talking about a couple things. Some of it is sad, so just warning for anybody if you don't want to listen to the sad stuff, you can definitely skip over. I have the timestamps in there. so you can jump to the movie discussion if you want. But we
Mhm.
are going to talk about the recent passing of some celebrities, namely Betty White, Sidney Poitier, and Bob Saget, and what
Mhm.
they meant to us and just to the industry as a whole. We're not going to do the typical thing, well, me, where I kind of list their accolades, because I tend to mess up because we don't, when we talk about these things, a lot of it is sudden. Like we'll have a plan just to, behind the curtain for folks, Wizard of Oz, right? We have a plan and then something happens, breaking news, and it's like, oh, you have to cover it, but it's not something like a new game got announced. It doesn't really matter if you get these things right. It's like, oh, someone passed, and it's like, oh, you really need to know how to say their name. You need to know what awards they actually won and were nominated for. All that stuff is important when you try to cover people in this fashion. And with us, it's kind of it's more of a sudden thing. With us taking a break off, we actually had time. Ironically, we had time to do it this time, but I still chose not to for those particular reasons. That being said, we wanted to kind of jump in and share what we thought, because we enjoyed the things that they brought to the industry. I remember watching Betty White, like the Golden Girls, early on. Early on for me is like after the show has been already off the air, mind you. But I remember watching and being a fan of the show and the humor and the things that they were trying to do with the show. Like a lot of it is just, it's like, I don't want to say everyday humor or average person humor, but it's like it's not necessarily tied to a particular race or anything like that. It's definitely tied to the person's age, obviously, but they were still communicated, or the jokes are still written in a way that people who were younger would understand. But
Mhm.
there were some episodes that I really enjoyed where they kind of dealt with issues of race, uh, where I believe Betty's character and the character who was rich, I forgot her name, Blanche, I believe Blanche,
I
where
never describe Blanche as rich. Blanche is just a hoe.
she,
That
well in this particular episode, that's messed up, but she was though on the low. No, but she was very much a Blanche was very more like woman empowerment in terms of that side of things. But there was one episode where they talk about her family owning a plantation and the
Mhm.
plantation owning several slaves, and how she tried to she had to kind of reckon with that when she was around some black people
Mhm.
and had to work with some black people, and that information came out. She didn't know it at first. That information came out later, and you know they were like, so basically, what are you going to do now? Like, what, how do you feel about it? And she kept kind of, pushing it aside as like, that's just how they were, or that's how the times and whatnot. And Betty White's character was like, that's not right. And her character isn't, at least on the show of the Golden Girls show, she wasn't perceived as the smartest. She wasn't she wasn't the
Why being kind? You can say it how it is, but I mean, Rose was my favorite character, okay? And she was an idiot.
I mean,
That's
I
who
was
she
trying to be,
was.
what I'm saying, like I was,
No,
but
there's no point.
but yeah, she didn't understand a lot of things,
Yes,
and but she understood that at the very least she understood that, hey,
yes.
something, your family did something wrong, and you gotta own up to it, even though you didn't do it per se, but your persona and how you are kind of waving it away is it's harmful to others. And so essentially there would be times where Rose's, she's sharp and she'll just tell you something before going off on a tangent, right? And those things kind of sat with me because it's usually something important. And this particular episode was rather important, because it kind of shifts the dynamic in terms of how you view these characters. If one of the characters that you enjoyed watching, kind of comes out and says like, "Well, I'm okay." She didn't say she was okay with it, but kind of like excuses away racism or something that's harmful. It's like, dang, like I don't know how I feel about this person. Granted, it ends well, and she kind of comes to her senses, but having Rose kind of be the voice of reason, outside of the black people who were kind of telling her how it is, it really stood out. you know, beyond her being comical and bringing laughter, she also brought, and granted this was part of the writers and whatnot, she also brought a sense of understanding on certain issues that allowed me to like her character even more. Beyond that show, though, I also enjoyed all of her movie cameos. Um, Whether it was like a full, like a, not really a. She had some starring roles that were really cool, but like even the stuff that's kind of like the proposal. She's in the movie. She's not there too long, but there's a hilarious scene with her and where like her niece is talking about marrying someone, and she's playing music, and it's supposed to be like a meditative state that you're supposed to put yourself in, but the wrong song plays, and it's like Yin Yang Twins
She saves that
from the
movie.
window, from the window to the wall. It's hilarious. This entire scene is just the best thing ever. I don't think, if you haven't seen that, if you haven't seen the proposal, even if you don't watch the whole movie, Sandra Bullock and her, just go to that scene. Oh my gosh, it is great. But
Yeah.
anyway, stuff like
She's not
that
her
where like
niece in that movie. She's trying to marry her grandson.
her grandson. Okay, okay. I
She's
haven't seen it
yeah.
in like 1,000 years,
That
but
movie's stupid. I don't even like
it's
that movie.
it's hilarious though. It's hilarious.
I just like
Um,
Betty White in that movie. I think I my personal feeling is she saves that movie from the disaster of a plot. It is funny, like the movie's funny. Ryan Reynolds is hilarious. Sandra Bullock is amazing in everything she does, and of course Betty White. Just even her presence being there makes that movie great. Like not sorry, not great, but makes everything better. And then the dad from Coach, but like, but
right.
otherwise,
Yeah.
the plot is miserable. There's honestly too many themes going on in that movie, and but the comedy helps it make it better. Yeah,
It's great.
she's good.
But she's definitely a highlight. She's definitely a highlight. I mean, and then she's also on one of my favorite shows of all time. The Mary Tyler Moore show. She makes
Mhm.
several appearances. Like she's done a lot of stuff where every time I see her, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's hilarious. And then
Yeah.
the even with her flirting with Ryan Reynolds, like he would say like, she's the one that got away and stuff like that. It's like it's not, they're just being funny, but she does it so well, or
Oh,
her
yeah.
flicking off the camera, or just a
Yeah.
seemingly lovable person, um, who doesn't mind being the brunt of the joke, who believes that certain things are important. I mean, unless there's some type of dark history that I don't know of, in terms of like, respecting other people's cultures and whatnot. Just a lot of great things with this woman, and I never met her, so I can only go off of persona and what she's given to the world. So I don't know her personally, but those things have been positive. Just about everything she's done has been positive. I don't think there's been any type of like cancel campaign or smear campaign against her. I think genuinely everyone, regardless of political ties or whatever the case may be, just like Betty White,
Oh,
and
I love it.
that's hard to imagine. I mean, I think the only other person I can think of that was kind of there, just completely ruined their reputation. And I'm not even going to bring up his name, but where it was like America's favorite dad. You know what I mean? Like there's you don't really have too many of these people. There's a few, but not too many that were on Betty White's level. So it's definitely sad at her passing. I believe it was. I don't think it was anything. Oh, before I continue, let me point something out real quick because I was going to talk about or I was going to mention how she passed a little bit, at least what was revealed to us. But I wanted to point out something. Hulk Hogan is constantly showing me why he's no longer one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Outside of him saying extremely racist things, he's been going on social media talking about how Betty White and Bob Saget and all of them passed right after or around the time that they got the booster, the COVID shot booster or whatever, and saying how you know it's I can't say this is what's happening, but it seems wink wink, and for everyone who feels that way, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like it's just sad. It's really sad. You and to the point of being naive of even your own self, right? It can't be that when someone dies from COVID that you immediately go to what were their previous conditions. Like, did they have cancer? Did they have, diabetes or whatever, right? Because then you can say, oh, it's the diabetes. It wasn't COVID. But then if someone dies who have gotten the vaccination, all of a sudden, oh, it's the vaccination. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it where you get to pick and choose what someone died from, and then have that be your, I don't know, your launching your political rant or whatever. And these people just passed away, fam. Like, why would you do that? Even if it had something to do with, the vaccination or whatever. Like, you're not taking into account these people's, how old they were. Like, she was a few weeks from turning 100, I think.
Yeah,
Or
so
a
Betty
few,
White was 99. She died on New Year's Eve, which I
right.
still don't believe is true. I'm still going to just sit here and say she's alive because I'm hurt, because we were supposed to be celebrating her birthday on the 17th, and I was really looking forward to that party.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, we didn't take anything into account. We just use this to kind of, boost up how we feel about, or our biases about science, if you will. And it's annoying. It really is. Can we not do that? You have no proof. You have no evidence. You have nothing, and you don't know anything. Like, I love how people will speak on something as if they are some sort of like authority on the subject and know nothing. You haven't gone to any class remotely positioned to give you some type of authoritative stance on what it is we're talking about. Go sit down, Hulk Hogan. You took too many chair shots to the brain. That's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anywho,
I'm going to say that. Yeah,
anywho,
so anyway.
yeah,
um, so Betty White's birthday celebration, which was scheduled for the 17th, is actually still going on. But people have to buy tickets and go see the movie in theaters because it's basically like a documentary of her life and career and stuff.
yeah,
So I was really, really looking forward to that. I mean, obviously I wasn't going to go, but just waiting to see whatever was going to be on TV that day. I was really, really, really excited and really looking forward to that. And the way I found out was I had my phone on and I was in my game, and somebody had sent a message saying, Betty White had passed. And then I was like, no, you're just like, that's not even funny. Like I that's actually not funny, because like for the last several years, you know how we've always had this like thing, especially when COVID came out, people were like, protect, and they would like they had a list of famous people who needed to be
right.
protected at
Protect,
all
yes,
costs.
protect them,
So,
yes,
so Betty White was on the list, Sidney Poitier was on the list, James Earl Jones was on the list, Morgan Freeman's on the list, Dame Judi Dench is on the list.
right,
Like it's just the list of the actors that we love and cherish so much that we've known our whole lives. And obviously Betty was up there, and it was always so amazing how every year it'd be like Betty White's turning older and older. So when finally it was like Betty White's turning 100, I was like, oh my God, she made it. I am so excited she made it. Because I actually have the Betty White at 88 t-shirt.
oh
I have
yeah.
I have that t-shirt. It's so cute because it's like Rosie the Riveter, but it's Betty White, 88 years strong. And so I mean, I adore Betty White. I grew up on the Golden Girls. I was a child when Girls came out in '85. I was just a little brat, but it ran through my childhood, so I watched every episode. And Rose was my favorite. And when we were kids, like any show that kind of came on TV, like me and my brother and sisters were kind of always given characters. I know Rose was my favorite, and I was kind of like Rose. And then like my sister, her favorite character was Blanche. And like you kind of just like kind of picked who you loved the most. I can't remember
Right.
if my mom loved Sophia and then my older sister loved um B. Arthur's character. But anyway, I just adored, I think not just me, but obviously all of us, we adore Betty White and everything. I think everybody was really, really sad to hear, because again, this was New Year's Eve, and we're like, wow, really?
Right.
We're like, okay, that's really nice of you. But again, I was just like, somebody slap her and wake her up. Like, this is not cool. But you know, it did happen, and that it's just really sad because I think that people were just really, really happy to still have her around. Yeah, she had a
Yeah,
really long career, it was over 80 years. Um, I mean, she was really like she's an OG girl boss. And gotta say, man, I think her life was really, really amazing. She blazed a trail for so many women, for comedians, for women comedians. And she's gonna be missed, but she'll be forever in our hearts because she left so much work behind. So we'll always still have a piece of her from the age of like 20 to the age of 100. So we're lucky to have been blessed by this woman and
yeah,
that we never got to meet, but we met her through TV. So
definitely,
thanks, Betty.
definitely. Same thing goes with Bob Saget actually.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and everybody, well, I don't, not everybody, because Bob Saget had done, you know, stand up and stuff like that prior
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
being on
Full
America's
House.
Funny, yeah, Full House and America's Funny Home Videos, and but I knew him first from Full House.
Hmm. Yeah.
I didn't realize he had even done that, which was which is extremely shocking when your first impression of him is Full House,
I
and then you
know. And
see
then you
his
hear his comedy.
right, and that happens a lot with like so many comedians, but like I really didn't know he did that, and then I saw him on you know America's Funny Home Videos, and I'm like, oh, he's you know he's wholesome and what, and then you hear him
Uh-huh.
joke, and it's like, ooh,
Wow. You're like, wait a minute, did that just come out of his mouth? And you're
right,
still young at the time. Like
exactly,
Full House
that was
just went off the air.
mind blowing and but hilarious too,
So
really
good.
funny,
So
really
good.
funny stuff, and it's he was also one of the people that was just on TV during a certain era
Hmm.
that helps paint you know your childhood. I mean, I had the black shows that I would watch, and I've spoken enough about them. But then I also
Hmm.
had this you know TGI Fridays and whatnot where these shows would come on, and I'm like, you know what? They're not half bad. They're corny, but they're not half bad. It's all right.
Right.
And being able to I don't know see a different side of America that's still not positioned or depicted in a way that is toxic to me, if that makes sense. Like these are the people that they would be on the show would be the same way like Betty White, or you know Rose on that other show where they would stand up for people who are lesser. You know, they would teach all these you know basic moral things that were good. You know, outside of that, I don't know. I have no idea. Like I said, I didn't know he even did stand up. But watching him on TV, it was like, oh, this is encouraging. This is pretty cool. And eventually seeing him in films, like Half Baked, which was again another because I'm like,
I know.
why would you
He
even
was
be in this film? But
I'm like,
it
dude, it
works. It works
was so
so
good.
well. You
So
know,
good.
like and so it was sad. Like thankfully I read that his passing was not drug related. His passing was not there was no foul play. So they haven't released any more information outside of that. You know, after doing the autopsy, but it wasn't one of those things where you know we kind of hear about where a celebrity overdose or you know something to that effect, right? It wasn't one of those things. It was more so something else. And while that's still kind of it doesn't make everything better. It does. It's less tragic in a way because of the I don't know the past few years. That's all we've gotten. I think like you know from DMX to whoever. It's like dang, like you were doing so well just a minute ago, or seemingly doing so well, you know, and to go so suddenly. It's like ah. So at the very least, we you know we did know that. And we also know that he was beloved by a lot of people, just like Betty White. There's so many celebrities online talking about, you know, the kind things that he did and, you know, the way he treated everyone like family, you know, even after they finished working together or, you know, had left the full house, they were still doing Fuller House on Netflix. But beyond that, just inviting people over to his house to eat and stuff like that, like just being, you know, similar to what you saw on TV. A little bit of that was, or majority of that was him as well, and that's reassuring. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks when you find out that these celebrities are really bad people behind the scenes. On the flip side, it's really cool when you find out that they're actually solid folks.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob Saget was cool people's, and just again somebody that I grew up with in my household. My mom really liked him. My mom loved America's Funniest Home Videos. We used to watch it too, and his stand up was fire. So it's
Yes.
it really really is. Like if you haven't listened to if you haven't watched Bob Saget do stand up, I do recommend you go and do that, because if you only know him from Full House and you only know him from America's Funniest Home Videos, you're missing out on more than half of this man's career. Like he's awesome. And so
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, it's just a major tragedy. He was in the middle of a tour, not even in the middle, I think up at the beginning of a tour,
Right.
with when this happened. And so it's very sad, because he's on tour, he's on the road, and his family can't reach him, and that's when they end up finding him. So um he will always be like Danny Tanner for a lot of us, especially
Yeah.
in our age group. But it was great to grow up on the wholesomeness of Full House and all that stuff. But this is another one of the funny guys, comedians that we've lost way too soon. And 2022 is really, really starting out interesting.
Yeah. It is. It was the universal hold my beer moment. It
uh,
seems.
I don't even know how we're continuing to do this. We had 2020, which was just like, excuse you. And then 2020 was like, well, I'm just going to be bad too. And now 2022 is just like, oh, you haven't seen anything yet. And
Right.
so the last celebrity we're going to bring up that died recently. I mean, okay, we'll shout out, John Madden. Madden died.
Yeah, John Madden. That's right.
John
He
Madden.
did. He did die.
I think a few days before Betty White did, and I didn't. I actually had to hear that from somebody else on the 31st. So I was like, "Wait, what, Madden?" And anyway, I just thought again, my brain just like left. It actually jumped out of my head. I found it later. It was hiding under a pillow. But Sidney Poitier, one of my mom's favorite actors. Um, So, and actually, my aunt, your mother-in-law, one of hers as
Mm.
well, actually, from
Hey,
what I
he's
remember.
Denzel before Denzel.
He was Denzel before Denzel. Um, so Sidney Poitier was 94 and he passed away. And so when I used to go over to your wife's house, when we were kids or growing up, your mother-in-law used to make us watch To Sir with Love. It didn't happen all the time. It happened several times, okay? Because I swear that was like her favorite movie.
Yeah.
And I remember us having to sit through that movie. But then I think one time I actually paid attention to the movie. Like I fully paid attention and I was like, wow. Like yeah, I was like, wow. Okay. I mean, I don't want to get distracted by the fact that I love Lulu's song To Sir with Love. Like that is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. I sing it all the time. I think I've sang that at an audition before. I do. I adore that song. But yeah. And that I think that was my first real, and this is as a child. I don't know how old I was. I was little. Again, she used to make us watch this all the time, but like that was
Right.
my first real glimpse of Sidney Poitier. And then obviously I watched more of his work later on in life. And then nobody can forget when Will Smith was in 6 Degrees of Separation saying that he was Sidney Poitier's son. And people are like,
Yeah.
oh, wow. It's like, it's a good
You look
lie.
nothing
Nobody's
like
gonna
him.
catch you. Nothing. You're just tall.
Right?
Like, um, but he had such an amazing career, and I watched a bunch of his movies. I actually, when I was in college, I did a scene from Raisin in the Sun in my acting class, and
Word.
that movie was, yeah, that one kind of hurt too. But I love Sidney Poitier. I think the best way to describe him is that he was Denzel before Denzel. He was the Denzel of our parents' time, man.
I mean, even
Oh,
Denzel says that when because like so Cindy won he's the first black
yeah,
actor to
first
win
black guy.
Academy Award
Mhm.
for Best
Yeah,
Actor.
Damien. Mhm.
And then Denzel Washington was the second. And
Mhm.
during that, his speech or whatever, he says basically, I'm chasing you, and
Mhm.
he's like, I'm cool with that. Like that's all I want to do is chase you. He's done so many big things and won
Mhm.
so many awards and has acted and starred in so many films and has been next to amazing people, alongside himself, like, or
Yeah.
outside of, just him being himself, like from, Richard Pryor and, Cosby and, well, he's not great, but you get what I'm saying. A lot of people who, he's not great at all. But in that, when Ghost Dad came out, it was like a big deal. Like, oh, these people are, or either even not Ghost Dad, but the films that Cosby directed that he was in. It was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is a big deal because you have these two powerhouses that are sharing the same space, right? And it signaled a big thing or signaled a lot of positive messaging for Black people. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
could win an Academy Award, or I
Yeah.
could, have all these different achievements. I mean, at one point he was like an ambassador to the Bahamas. Like, it's just there's so
Oh,
many things that he's
that's
done.
the fun fact. He was an ambassador to the Bahamas. He was the Bahamian ambassador to Japan.
Oh, see, I was confused of his accolades because he's done so freaking much. Right? But like it's inspiring. It's inspiring. And then at the same time, you haven't heard any like I'm saying, we have these honorable people. You don't hear any negativity surrounding his name. You hear a bunch of positive things,
It's
not
good
just from
stuff.
people in the industry, but people who, what they meant, what he meant to them when they were growing up, the movies and everything, just seeing the things that he was doing and the things that he accomplished, how that motivated them to do big things. It's a lot. And, you could kind of, I mean, no one wants to go, right? But if you do go, you at least want to be remembered fondly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that he's remembered fondly for all the good reasons.
He really is, for all of the good reasons that
Right.
it's like you say, when you say the name Sidney Poitier, it's just like there's a calming sense, and you just wanna drink a cup of tea. That's how I feel.
Right. You wanna you wanna be respectful as possible. You want, like, do you see who that is? Like, you you want to be like, yeah, it's an important name, right? But he's done a lot. He's done a lot, and it was sad to hear about his passing.
Yeah.
Um, and you
Keep
know
thinking
it.
about the movie. I do, I just yeah, like, I j I just always just go back to that movie, to Start With Love. I always do.
I mean, that's the case with like a lot of these people, right? Going back to Full House, going back to, I still watch the Golden Girls when I can.
I
It's
know.
it's timeless. There's these things are timeless, you know, and that's no shade
Oh,
to Madden, John Madden. Even we had picked these three people out because we don't want to talk about everybody because that would be super sad. But shout out to John Madden as well. A lot of things that he did in terms of not just promoting the football game, but then also off the field where he, you know, uh, championed getting help, you know, for NFL players who suffered from concussions and stuff like that, making changes in the league, better ruling, insurances after they left the league. Like, he was a part of a lot of that positive movement in football. So,
mhm.
there's no shade to him that he's not a part of the bigger list that we had. But these were three key people that we shared a appreciation of. So we wanted to pick these three people.
It's okay, I like Madden too. I
Rest.
mean, I'll never his voice will forever be in my head. Like, you'll never forget his voice. He has a voice that cannot be forgotten.
Right.
It's it's memorialized in many games that people paid a lot of money for.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. He made EA a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, definitely. Shout out to the families. Our prayers with you during these times, and you know, it's great to remember the good times. That doesn't really help you at all, but it helps. It helps a little bit. It will help. As time goes on.
Mhm.
Beyond, talking about celebrities and whatnot, we wanted to talk about Don't Look Up on Netflix. I know we're kind of late on that. I this is my fault because I actually hadn't seen the movie. A lot of people were talking about it on
Saw
Twitter.
it. I saw it the day it came out.
I know a lot of people because everyone I typically a lot of times I'll see something on Netflix or at least hear about it, and if it's not in my wheelhouse initially, I'll let it go. But then after a while, so many people talk about it on Twitter that it becomes this own thing. For instance, the Bird Box. I didn't watch that because I wanted to. I watched it because the buzz was so high. I'm like, all right, there's so many memes. I need to go see this thing because the memes and whatnot, the gifs, that became a thing of its own, right? It became a whole thing that people just kind of shared, even if they didn't watch it. So I checked it out. So the same thing with this movie. Tess was telling me I should check it out, see if I like it, and I was like, fine. I hear that negative things, positive things, whatever. Let me check it out. Watch the movie, and it's funny. It's really
Mhm.
funny. I'm not mad at Don't Look Up at all in terms of what they were trying to do. I do get the criticisms, and I understand why it scored what it scored on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that the director
Okay.
Adam McKay. I think that, and mind you, I know he wasn't the only writer, and whatnot. But I'm just, you usually blame the director. So Adam, it's your fault. But no, I think that I understand the idea that it is a little pushy or it is snobbish in the way that it approaches certain themes, and I'm not mad at that. I think that's the point, but that is a warranted criticism in terms of how they're delivering this message. I think the satire could be sharper, and I think that we could there could be a better story underneath all of it. That being said, that's the point. It's meant to be blunt, and I think it's hilarious because it's so freaking blunt. I get the criticism. I would have made the same criticism, but I would have scored it higher because it's freaking funny. Like
There he is.
this is this is reality. And I know a lot of people, depending on where you politically lean, that this might not be your reality. But looking at it, I'm like, this is such a thing. Like this is such a thing in the US that this movie could exist because of you people. Like, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, awesome playing Randall, uh, which is a scientist who, well, actually, no, he didn't discover it. Jennifer Lawrence's character, Kate, she discovers a comet that's flying to Earth, and he kind of backs her up. He looks at her, he does the math, if you will, and he's like, oh, we only have this many amount of months before the end of the planet. Everything, doomsday or whatever, and they go
It's an
about.
earth-ending comet. That's what they call
Right.
it.
Earth ending comet, like, worse than the dinosaurs type comet. And they went to the president, or at least tried to, and it didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. Um, they were like, outside of not believing them, they were like, we got to get the real professionals in on this. They also cared mostly about like silly political stuff. Like there was the president, Mel Streep's character, wanted to bring on someone who apparently, what did they say he did? He wasn't a stripper. It was something really mild. Like, oh no, that's what it was. He posed one time while he was in college. He posed nude for art classes, and that was like a big scandal, right? And so they were like, we can't have this person, run for office with this scandal hanging over our heads. So the president was looking for anything she could do to kind of, win back, the polls or whatever the case may be, because it was a big thing, right? And when you hear it, it's like this is very minute. This is a small thing. If this was the real world, this shouldn't be a. No one would care that he posed nude once in a art class. That's what you do. Not you, but like if you're a nude, you know what I'm saying. Like that's a job that people have, right?
Mhm.
It's not like he was selling drugs at one point or anything like that, or into human trafficking like some of the people out there. No,
Mhm.
he just posed naked, and this was a big deal. The reason why I'm harping on this is because they just told this woman that a comet the size of like a mountain is going to crash into the planet and kill everyone. And she's worried about how people feel about this one guy being nude this one time years ago. That's how silly everyone is. Like that's how silly the world is. Everyone is concerned about things that don't make sense or things
Mhm.
that you shouldn't be concerned about.
Mhm.
Like two celebrities breaking up, like that's the big deal.
I mean,
Versus
because hello, like when Kylie and Travis Scott were like on the outs, that was so much more important than the fact that half of the country doesn't make enough money to afford their rent and it's going to be homeless.
bam. I so didn't care. I when I was hearing that, I was like, and like these people are human. Like who cares? Like anyways, but it got so bad that when these two celebrities get back together in the film, a person's phone like automatically download their new single. Like
Mhm.
it's everything is tied to things that aren't important. Everything is tied to social media and just this. Oh my god, it's just. But it works so well in the film because it's a reflection of us. It's not a good reflection. It's kind of skewed. Think like those mirrors when you go to the carnival. It's a little bent in certain places, but it's still us in a way. I love the fake. What is it? The Apple, the dude who, the face behind Apple. At one point, what is his name? Ah, crap! It fell out of my
You
head.
mean the guy who was like a mixture of Steve Jobs and um
Bill
um
Gates. I
Bill
think it's Bill
Gates?
Gates.
Yeah, he's definitely a mixture of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg. If all four of them were one person, it would be him.
Yes, and he pissed me off to no end.
Yeah,
But
he did his job.
comically, yes, it was comical. There's a lot. I'm not gonna go through everything. I just want to say that I liked it. um, I loved how uh, I love the jokes. I love how blunt they were. I like
Mhm.
how Jennifer Lawrence's character kept talking about I believe he was a sergeant in the military, how he charged them for snacks and just kept bringing it up all through the film. It
So
was
good.
great because I would have felt the way too. I would have felt a way that not only did he charge them, it wasn't like, hey, I got this candy bar for you for $1. He charged like $20, like
Yeah,
for like a bag of chips,
for just a bag of chips.
and they were
And
displayed on the table for free.
it was so shady. It was so shady.
He was
And it
smooth. He was smooth with it, but still,
so smooth. And it was
he
like,
wouldn't even
why are
give the
you
dude
doing this?
change. He wouldn't even give the guy change. He's like, "You got any change?" He's like, "Nah, I mean, I got like 100, but I don't." And like took the guy's 20. Like, oh my goodness. So yeah,
Like, who does this? Who
but
does this?
essentially,
What kind of way, what kind of need were you in that you had to do this?
none. He just knew they hadn't been there. They were waiting for 6 hours. I'm gonna scam these folks. Why not?
Yeah, why
Um,
not?
it was perfect. It was a perfect scam. And then he dips. He didn't even meet. They didn't even meet the president that day. They were waiting to meet the president to tell them of their impending doom, and the president's like, whatever. Um, but yeah, a lot of it revolves around social media. A lot of it is a reflection of us, and a lot of it is indicative of the recent presidential runs, where a lot of nonsense is being talked about. People believe it, and no amount of proof, science, I don't know, stats, nothing. You can't show these people anything. They will just believe what they want to believe, to the point where, and this is where the movie gets its title, "Don't Look Up." They see the meteorite coming. People are like, "Just look up. It's right there. It's there. It's huge." And the opposition's campaign is "Don't look up." They have hats made, "Don't look up," and people are rocking these hats, and they don't want you to look up because they don't want you to be afraid and all this other crap, right? Like, yeah, you probably should though. and up until the point where the meteor is like, or the comet is like so huge in the sky that no matter where you are on the planet, you see it. And they're like, "Oh, you lied to us." It's like, no, they really didn't. They just said what you wanted to hear, and they actually used the truth. They just said, "Don't look up," because they don't want you to be. They want you to be afraid. That was truthful, but you bought into this political whatever, and because they're Republican or Democrat or black or white or whatever the case may be, you're just like, I'm not gonna believe them. I'm gonna go with you, and because of that, spoilers, everyone freaking dies. And I don't think I was. I think this is the only movie where I was rooting for everyone to die. I think this is the only one where I was like, let the thing hit. Just let it hit. Let's just end it. Just do it. Just kill everybody. Move the hell on. Because there's no fixing this. There's no fixing this at
Yeah.
all. At all.
I think
But
that's
yeah,
what the author wanted to kind of even to say, because like, you know what, we're this far gone on this planet, we don't deserve to live. Like it's just end us because
it was
we suck.
sad. It was hilarious and sad at the same time.
It was hilarious and sad. I actually appreciate, so this is one of the movies that I really feel is like a good example of filmmaking. I really do. I really appreciate the very beginning of the movie, because I feel like the beginning of the movie's intention was to bring you through every emotion possible, and it did. Like I knew I was watching a comedy. I got that. But the funny to horror to funny that happened in the first few minutes, I thought was so good. It was so well paced and it was
Yeah.
so well timed. Like you're sitting there like, okay, this is funny, this is comical, whatnot. And then you start to get the anxiety and the fear that these scientists are getting, and then it's just like it gets to that point where it's where they're like, oh my god, this is an act of the universe, this is nothing we can control, and that kind of horror takes over your body and your mind because you know that you're powerless, there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do. And then immediately once you want to get there, then the thing, like the screen, the like the title like pops up on the screen and it becomes
Yeah.
funny again. They don't ever let you feel sad long enough to the point where you're like, oh, this is a sad movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so well timed. And I appreciate that so much in filmmaking. I'm like, you guys did this. And I thought it was funny. A friend of mine called me like yesterday, the day before yesterday, to tell me that she finally watched it. And I was like, tell me about the first few minutes. She said the exact same thing I did. She was like, oh my God,
Right.
I wanted to cry right then and there. And then I just busted out laughing. And it just doesn't stop. I find every moment of the movie hilarious. I worked for the government, so even all of the things that were happening, even though it was silly, the stuff that's
Yeah.
obvious, with the silly stuff with like not paying attention to what the scientists are telling you, but being more focused on the other stuff. But then when they actually started explaining what they were doing, like the president was polling high, didn't want anything to make her poll lower. And then when the president starts polling lower, they're like, okay, well, we need to do these things because we still
Right.
need to look like we're in control. And all of those things which are truthful. That wasn't even like, you could say that it was a parody or, some um, um,
Satire.
satire, but it was just straight truthful. This is literally what
Yeah.
happens in politics. This happens all the time. And so, like wag the dog type stuff. Oh, you're polling bad, start a war somewhere. Like your
Right. Or
numbers will
make
go
something
up.
that, yeah, make something that people have been telling you has been an issue. Now make that part of your campaign.
Yeah. So all of it was still, truthful. And I know some people had said they're like, oh, they got a bunch of big names to carry the film. And I was like, no, first of all, they didn't just get a bunch of big names. This is, if I was a big name, I'd want to be in this movie. Like I would be like, get hire me. You have Tim Chalamet sitting on a like a 7-minute role. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I truly appreciate this movie. I mean, I kind of like movie disaster-esque type movies, but I really liked Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, and kind of one
Oh,
of the
I need to
greatest.
see that.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I need to see that.
Okay, never mind. I was going to spoil it. We're not going to do that for you because you should see that movie. That's a good movie. So you should
Word.
watch that. But yeah, so I appreciated that because I really like that movie. So of course I really like this movie. And you know, when you think that everything is going to happen, and then all of the missiles in the space shuttle get turned back because our hodgepodge of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg has decided that he wants to go mine the comet for,
Right.
for minerals. And he's like, yeah, instead of us blowing the thing up hundreds of thousands of miles away, we're going to let it get close and we're going to mine it for minerals because it'll bring jobs. And then everybody's like, jobs, because we all know in the political sphere, if you say jobs, then and yeah, it's like, oh,
Which is
what
sad. It's like most of
jobs?
y'all already have jobs. Like, what you
Well,
even
thank
getting
you.
excited for? And they're like, it could end world hunger. You think they're gonna give you, fam?
That's
Do you think he's gonna
because
share the money?
the people who have jobs aren't worried about their own jobs. They want the people that they think their taxes support to get jobs. Okay? This is
See,
why when politicians say stuff about jobs, it really only it entices a certain demographic. so
sad.
and exactly, and that's why it was so funny. It's so hilarious because it's like, so it take a comet the size of Texas to fly towards your planet and threaten death for you to change your opinions? Like, it's coming at you to kill you, and then all of a sudden somebody says, maybe we can make this work in our favor, and then you jump at that because of money? Like, that just
Right.
shows how far gone humans really are. Like, there are certain people who just can't be helped. And so and if you liken that to what's going on now with like COVID and all that stuff, it's the exact same thing. And it's sad. It's really sad because it's like, oh, by the way, your neighbor, your cousin, you're this, you're that, all have COVID and 7 of them have died or whatever, but you're still sitting there like, no, it's not real. It's a hoax. It's a hoax. President said it's a hoax, so it's a hoax. And it's like, wow,
Right.
but he got
It's
COVID. So,
and got treated, and he said that the vaccine is extremely helpful. Like
right.
people were losing their minds online. Like
Totally.
I saw someone posted a message from someone, I think they were on Facebook, and they said something to the effect of that they had, you know, lost their spouse over the, differences in, political differences or whatever, and,
Yeah.
had lost everything. But then hearing Trump say that the vaccine was actually good went against everything that he stood for, and now he's devastated. I'm like, fam, it took all of it. You mean to tell me that it just took him saying that? Not your losing your wife and your kids moving in with her and potentially losing your job. None of that. It was just
None of
him.
that.
This is
None
how this is how like brainwashed people are.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's insanity. It's insanity, but that is literally what made the film so, so funny and what made it just hit the nail on the head. That's why I appreciate it so much. So I'm I just looked on Rotten Tomatoes to see that score. Like, the critics gave it a worse score than just, regular viewers. And I'm like, well, screw y'all. But
well, that's what
like,
I was saying. Like, that's it's, and I say this because I do that. Like, I have films, my reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well. Small flex. Anyways, I get the idea, because if you're explaining something, a lot of the times the negative reviews aren't actually negative if you read them. They are being critical of something, and because of that, you have a standard to go by. And when you score something, there's no middle ground with Rotten Tomatoes. Either it's fresh or it's rotten. So you could say something is, let's say your outlet is like, 5 out of 10 for us is actually decent, but Rotten Tomatoes sees that as rotten. So if you all you saw is rotten, even though the person's like, oh, it's not a bad movie, it's all right, then that's all you get is rotten. So the score goes down. So a lot of those, there are people who hated it, mind you, but sometimes it's just your criticism falls in such a way that you'll err on the side of rotten or fresh, even though you didn't necessarily mean it to.
Mhm.
And that's something that I don't like about the site myself personally. I think there
Yeah.
needs to be a middle ground because a lot of films, everything isn't great or terrible. That's not that's there's so
Yeah.
many degrees of gray in between that you kind of do things a disservice. So yeah, a lot of times the fan vote and the critical vote is going to be different because the fan vote is more fluid. Even though
Mhm.
I don't trust none of y'all because yeah,
Yeah, I don't trust a fan vote, but
right, because it's a lot of trolling, but at the same time, even with people who aren't trolling, it's going to be a little bit more fluid versus critics who have certain standards. And
yeah.
I made mention of that with the Black Panther. I love the film, but if I have to be critical of it, there are certain elements of it that don't work,
Mhm.
and it would probably make me score it a little bit lower than what I would on a personal standpoint because my name is stamped on beside this thing or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Anywho,
agree with that.
but
Um,
yeah, I think it's a good movie. I think I
I
like everyone in it.
Yeah, I think they all did amazing, and I truly enjoyed the ending. Like, not even I did find out that one of my friends did not see the post-credit scene,
Oh yeah,
like,
you gotta
and
watch it.
both post-credit there's 2 of them.
Yes.
So, I thought that that was funny, I told her to go rewatch it. But I appreciate the world blowing up. Like, I appreciate the scene, the dinner table scene so much.
Yeah.
I truly, truly appreciate that. I love how, um, they're just like, the world's gonna end. We tried, so why
Yep.
don't we just have a really nice steak dinner? And they sat around the table as friends. And I love how Timothée Chalamet gave the prayer that was icing on the cake. But I think, the thing about that scene that I really, really, really liked was the fact that, like, the earth is shaking, the walls are shaking, the lights are blinking. They all collectively understand what's about to happen. They're not screaming and crying and hiding under the table. They didn't go find a bathroom like a hurricane was coming to hide or a tornado was coming.
Right.
Like, they didn't go into the bunker, the bomb shelter. They just stayed around the table and enjoyed the final moments they had left, held hands, just had a good time. And I just appreciate that because it didn't like make me feel like it made me happy for them. I was
Right.
happy for them. I was happy for them that they got to choose the way their last moments on earth were, and they accepted it. They didn't turn into the boar demon from Princess Mononoke who was not trying to die. He
Right.
turned into a demon because he wasn't trying to die. They not easily, but they made a choice and decided to have a very peaceful ending. And I was like, more power to you. Well, you have no power, you're about to die. But more power to you guys. Good job. Good job.
Yeah. It was nice. I don't think I would have been that calm, to be honest. Um, because a little bit, and maybe they had already gone through this earlier where
Mhm,
there's just the pure anger that the greed basically killed everyone. That and
mhm.
people being foolish. But it's like, dang man, like we had a chance and we could have, you know, altered the course of history or the future rather, and saved everyone. But then on top of that, the rich people had a freaking ark that they shot into space and was able to live however many years. I was happy that they eventually got eaten, essentially got eaten by
Brontorax.
by aliens, right?
By
That was
Brontorax
great.
dinosaurs.
That was great. Everyone needs to watch after the credits. Uh, Meryl Streep's character, the president, gets eaten. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, that was
Actually,
so
Marvel
funny.
has taught us something. We have to watch just in case.
Yeah.
Let the credits roll. I know it was ingenious because typically we don't look at the credits because we don't really be caring outside of like the people we know. We don't really look at the credits. Like I don't know who Bob Schmo is,
I
but
only care if my friends worked on it.
exactly. Or it's like, wait, I know that actor from somewhere. Is that such and such? It was such and such. That's the only time. But having after credit scenes is like, okay, you're gonna sit through the credits, so you kind of have to look at it or look at your phone. So it's smart. But streaming services are doing this as well. There's been a ton of films on Netflix that have after credit scenes, and this is one of them, and they're both funny. They're both funny. I'm mad at what's his name for trying to post.
Yo, he tried to post. He goes, "We out here, y'all." Jonah
Jo-
Hill is
Jonah.
ridiculous.
Yes.
He straight up said this movie is if Fire Festival was a movie, or if Fire Festival was a person, that's what these people are. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh my
Jonah
God.
did so great, and like he has a knack for just being obnoxious in a
Oh yeah.
really funny way. Like you want to
Yeah.
punch him, but you want to laugh
Mhm.
and then punch him. But him at the end being like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was all
Last
ad
man on
libbed.
earth. It probably was.
Right? There's just ad libbed. Like, there's no service. There's everything is dead, and he's like, "Yeah, remember to like and subscribe." Like, who are you talking to, fam?
Saying everybody's dead. Like he goes, "We out here, y'all. Last man on earth." You literally just said last man on earth. So who is
Right?
that? Who is that? Hermione, who is that? She don't know
See, she don't
either.
even know. She don't even know. She don't
Wait,
know.
yeah, that was hilarious. And I also had questions. I mean, obviously they did that for entertainment value, but I'm like, first of all, that comet destroyed the whole planet. I don't know how he managed to,
Yeah.
I don't, and he still had the Birkin. He still had the
Right?
Birkin. I'm like, oh my God, you have the Birkin. Mm.
Man, people, it's crazy. It's definitely go check it out. However you feel is however you feel, but I definitely recommend checking it out on Netflix. If you haven't, if you missed the wave like I did, definitely go check it out. Um, but that is our show for today, or rather tonight. Uh,
Sure.
thank you for hanging out with. Well, I breaking the fourth wall. We recorded night, folks. So yeah, but for you, it'll be in the day. Thank you for hanging out with us this whole time. If you have hung out with us, if you skipped around, that's cool too. Definitely appreciate you listening to us. Definitely subscribe if you're listening on our YouTube page at United Front Gaming. Definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're aware of all the new content that's coming out. If you're listening on all the other DSPs, whether it be Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts, definitely add us to your RSS feeds. Subscribe there. We're also on Verbal. We're on Verbal. Mind you, though, our podcast does show up a few days late, or later, I should say, on Verbal. They're a newer entity, so it takes a little while. But definitely go check us out there if you're listening there. And also follow us on Twitter at the Gamecast1. You got to put the one there or it doesn't work. All right. So definitely follow so you can be up. We're going to have a lot of new content to talk about, whether it's video games, movies, anime. Speaking of which, the final season, the final season of Attack on Titan has
Uh-oh.
started. So we're going to be talking about that. We're
Is it
also going
on
to talk about
Netflix?
some.
Is it on Hulu? Where is it? Where is it?
It is on. You can catch it on Crunchyroll.
Mhm.
It is also on Fanimation, and it's on Hulu. At,
Okay.
at those three places, I know definitely, but it might be elsewhere as well. But it's big, so it's probably gonna be in a lot of different places. But I'm watching it on Crunchyroll right now, and yeah, some
Crunchyroll
stuff.
anymore. I can't afford it anymore, so I never got to finish reading the final chapter. I'm
What
not
you
even
gotta
joking. I didn't get the final chapter because my Crunchyroll expired.
see? So we're gonna have to talk afterwards. We're gonna have to talk. But yeah, definitely check that out. We're gonna be talking about that. If you missed any of our other episodes, whether we're talking about Insecure, we had a whole breakdown about that recently. Definitely go check those episodes out as well. A lot of good content, fam. A lot of good content. So follow. And also let us know. We had people comment on our Arcane podcast where we talked about the Netflix show Arcane, and they agreed. It was positive. They liked what we had to say, and they agreed with most of our assessments. So that's definitely helpful to see. But let us know what you want us to talk about too. If there's a particular issue or a certain show, we're gonna be talking about The Witcher as well. I'm late on that as well. Um, there's just too much to watch, people. It's just too much. Like
Yeah, and I
The
got a headache
Witcher,
every day.
fam. The Witcher is out. The Boba Fett show is out. Thankfully, that only the episodes air once in the once a week versus like being out there totally for you to stream. But I caught up on Cobra Kai. I caught up on so many things. So just bear with me. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to the stuff. Um, if you have, and this also gives you, wink wink, this also gives you a chance to watch the shows before we talk about and potentially spoil them. So we're doing you a favor really by being behind, if you think
See,
about it. If you think about it, like,
it's
you
all for
just
you guys.
sit and think. But anywho, again, thanks for hanging out with us, and yeah, that's it for housekeeping.
Yep, that's it, guys. Remember to wash your hands, your faces, and your butts. And don't be a dick and get vaccinated if you can and stay
Yep.
inside. Wear your masks if you do go out, please. And wear a good mask. Don't skimp. It's just not worth it. It ain't worth it, kid. It ain't
Yep.
worth it. Anyway, thanks for being with us for another episode. Farewell to our Sydney, to our Betty, and our Bob. We hope to catch you guys next week. And that's it. Bye bye.